Hello, everybody. Alex from Life on Mars here. And in this episode, we bring you Nandini Jammi, who's a familiar face to many, because if you follow me on social media, that's one of the accounts and personalities I retweet the most. And I'm in awe of her work and her agency's work. Check My Ads, which is a company I deeply admire because they are doing a great kick-ass job at dismantling and disfunding. I don't know if that's even a word, right-wing advertisers and people who pretend to be other brands, basically companies impersonating other companies and deceiving people and trying to reap off money from not so tech savvy people or all these other giant scammy schemes on the internet. And so in this episode we discuss how to do that from the perspective of a small agency. When they were on the podcast, when she was on the podcast a couple of years back, she was just starting this venture. This time around she's almost 20 people in the company. We talk about business ethics, we talk about principles, company values, we talk about the exposure in social media, we talk about the future of these social media and marketing schemes, and how can we avoid, how can we prevent these kind of scams. And so without further ado, let me introduce you to Nandini Jammi. Let's go. Nice. All right. Good morning over there. How are you doing?
Good morning to you, Alex. It is morning.
You're making an exception for us because it's early morning in the US, and
That's
it's
right.
not for us. Yeah. Thank you for that.
I don't like to talk to people before 10 a.m., but here we are.
I don't
An
like to talk
exception
to
for you.
people. I'm also making an exception. So we're even.
Oh, yeah. No, we're totally even.
How about this podcast thing? I mean, you promised to bring on the Check My Ads podcast, or but seems like it's a project that you keep postponing, and that would be a podcast I'd definitely like to check out and listen to actively because you produce so much great stuff that probably you've got lots of content every week. Tell me more about that.
Ooh, gosh. Starting off with the hardball. Okay. Well, it's true. A few years ago, we intended to start a podcast. In fact, starting a podcast was the impetus for us to start Check My Ads. um, but things got in the way, right? Life got in the way. But you know what? We have a team now of around 10, 12 people. And I have some of the smartest people that I get to call my coworkers now. And the time has never been better to get these ladies on a call. We're a lot of ladies at this company. So it's coming. We're going to be doing it. In fact, we are starting off small and easy with a LinkedIn Live. We're doing our first LinkedIn Live this week in 2 days. No, today's Wednesday, in one day. And um, yeah, I think people should be excited to hear what we have to say about a lot of things that are going on in ad tech. I think people are hungry for a a real independent, honest, raw voice on the issues that we talk about that a lot of people are thinking about. So I'm excited to get that started.
I don't know if actually, to my recollection, we didn't talk about the podcast on the episode we recorded in early 2021. That was you started CheckMats in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. I think those were the early days of the company when we had the conversation with our friend Josh Feldberg on this episode. Sorry, on this podcast. And I remember that you had some ideas, like to, hey, how do
Mhm.
we break um, into this overcrowded world? Ad tech is so vast. The majority of people in this sector are marketers. Therefore, everything is so growth hacked. It's not even funny. It's really hard to get into this business, right? Luckily, you had prior experience in this, and of course, you know how to do it. So that brings me to my sort of first question, which is, we, like small independent companies, we often struggle to get our voices heard, right? And that's something you shared in social media. Sometimes you share something and people might congratulate you on, or they don't believe it's really you, right? It's, oh, I did this. Like, wait, you and who else, right? You and you want how many people more, and did you partner with a bigger company? How did you accomplish this alone, right? And so that's something that I particularly share with you. And by creating a podcast, maybe that's the best way to create a voice or like a bigger channel for you. So that I don't know if that's along the lines of the things that you were thinking.
Yes, it is. In fact, there's just so much that happens in any given week that I feel like writing has always been my medium for expressing myself just personally, but there's so much more to be said, and I think people need to hear our voices. So, podcasting is a great way to do that.
Exactly. I mean, there are so many big things that you have accomplished lately. One of the things I remember exchanging on Twitter about was the that issue that, for instance, Mark Cuban and Shark Tank had with some of their items being counterfeited or sold with their image illegally online. That's one of the many things you do, but it's interesting to see how a company that it's only 10 people and you probably had big clients from the get go because of previous experiences. But and I will be digging deeper on that. But like, um, if I were to, if I were in your position, I would be having difficulties explaining that. Oh yeah, we work for Mark Cuban and only 10 people. Like he's probably have 10 people in his own house, doing stuff for him. So how do you usually come across this kind of deal flow? And it's a
Oh,
recommendation, it's already branding.
well, so I need to just clarify that we're not a for-profit company, so we don't work for anybody. We don't have any
Okay,
clients.
good point.
But so Check My Ads is a nonprofit. We're the digital advertising watchdog. We are an
Mhm.
independent organization. We don't take any money from any of the big tech companies or just tech companies in general, because those are the folks that we are watching and whose lives we are working hard to make health. So the reason we're a nonprofit is because well, for a lot of reasons, but one of those reasons is to allow us to pull in the public and to do true public interest work that benefit everybody. So the way that Mark Cuban, the Mark Cuban reaching out to us was just like an interesting and random thing. It came at an interesting time for me personally because so here's what happened in November of this past year. Um, he reached out to me over DMs to say that he was dealing with an issue on particularly on Google with with essentially shark like fake Shark Tank keto gummies. So basically these weight loss gummies all over the internet that were claiming to be affiliated with or endorsed by Shark Tank and or Mark Cuban personally. And this was a problem because Shark Tank viewers, especially older viewers, believe what they see online and were falling for the scam and essentially being roped into making monthly payments for some, garbage product that doesn't work or just never comes. So he said he'd reached out to Google many times and had not made any progress with them. So he was contacting us to see if there was something that we could do. Now, this actually falls outside of the purview of what Check My Ads was last year. We were working on our tagline on our website was cutting disinformation off at the source. So this isn't disinformation. This is somebody having a problem with scammers. It's like a copyright issue. But when that issue came to my attention, I started thinking about how well I started to pay first of all, I started to pay more attention to these small scale scams like in the days after I received that message. And one ad that I came across while I was on YouTube looking at some kind of a recipe, I got an ad for a Kelly Clarkson endorsed keto gummy. So I clicked on that and it took me to a website that looked exactly like a news site, like a CBS news site. And it claimed that Kelly Clarkson had gone on I think the Today Show, and said she lost a ton of weight because of keto gummies, and here is your link to buy them yourself. And that got me thinking. It made me realize that these small scale scams are the same are u- are using the same tools that anybody can use to scam people or trick people or manipulate people into believing anything. And so that kind of helped me realize that we're working on that even like the scope of our work needs to be bigger. But at that time, I saw an opportunity when Mark reached out. I saw an opportunity to try something new. And so what we did at that time was we agreed to help him out. We got together. Uh, we wrote a couple. We wrote an article bringing attention to the issue. We well, actually, even before we did that, we actually reached out to. We used Google's own mechanisms for reporting fake ads and scam ads, and did not hear back. So using their normal designated method didn't work for us, even though this was an open and shut case. So after that, we decided to escalate. The way we did that was by writing a piece on it. We made a TikTok on it. We said that this is very clearly a scam, and that if they're not going to take their regular mechanism seriously, we're going to have to escalate by reaching out to the global VP of ads at Google, a man named Dan Taylor. And we published his email address and asked our followers to email him and make this a problem for him. And within 3 weeks, Google Ads updated their policy specifically to I don't have the language in front of me, but it is to ban scammers who impersonate people or businesses to sell a fake thing. Like it was the exact thing that we were asking them to do. Now, one could argue, and that person would be me, that these policies don't really matter, and what matters is enforcement. Because policies like this already exist under Google's current or previous iteration of their policy. But it matters because these people listened to us. It was clear that we caused them some distress or some level of stress, and that I mean, I don't know what Mark was able to do on his end with the work that we were doing, how he might have been leveraging it, but we were able to get that result. And those Shark Tank gummy ads are gone. Not all of them, as it turns out, just the ones that we specifically highlighted in our article. So there's a lot more work to be done, but that was a very key move for us and for Google, a way for us to sort of exercise our power and get something big done.
Um, I I remember the case. I don't remember the specifics, and I don't remember whether the content of those pages was only text and image. But one would think that nowadays it's getting even more sophisticated to impersonate somebody else because they can use fake video, fake AI, right? So the like deep fakes do generate somebody like Kelly Clarkson, somebody else saying, "Yeah, I actually did that." Generate the video. It looks fucking real, right? You can have like whoever you wanted to
Yeah.
say some things that never happen, and it's more sophisticated. And look, without video, I think I read an article the other day that 97% of the news that are shared on Facebook by elderly people are complete fake and utter garbage, right? So that's without video. That's usually that kind of, super dodgy news site that is super clickbaity and claims false theories and conspiranoia and stuff like that. So if it's already so easy to trick elderly and some other demographics of people to do the wrong thing, one can only imagine what is the power behind video. So how are you envisioning this is going to affect the industry even further? Because video just makes it all the more complicated to detect nowadays.
Well, I think the proliferation of fake and falsely like AI generated junk is really turbocharging the supply of crap out there. But I think what's important is to focus on policy and enforcement
Mm,
The technology that is there's always going to be new technology and new ways to take advantage of an old problem, but it is up to the companies uh to enforce that, and that's what we stay focused on. This enforcement is not just to protect users who might be duped into, reading or buying certain things, but it is also to protect advertisers, because not only do their ads end up on some of this junk supply that could be run by God knows who, but also when you have scammers running ads alongside a reputable company, then the value of the company's ad goes down as well, because now people don't know what's real.
mhm,
And that matters. I mean, I just before Mark contacted me, I had my own run-in with a scam. I was trying to buy a pair of Hokas, which is a pair of sneakers that,
mhm.
I did a Google search online. I really needed a new pair of sneakers because mine were falling apart. So I was kind of in a rush, and I was doing this really late at night when I was sleepy. And I typed in Hokas into Google, and Google search suggestions suggested Hoka's official website, which I clicked,
Mm.
and then I clicked on the first link that I saw, assuming that that would be the Hoka's website. It was hokas.us.com. And so I clicked on that and I was like, whoa, there's a crazy deal going on today. It was like 2 for 60, 2 for 70 or something. And these shoes are normally $140 or more. And I was like, boy, I better take advantage of this deal before it goes away. I mean, like I had this script going on in my head, like, of course, this is the real thing. So I went through a very odd checkout process that I should have flagged, but I was so tired. And I ended up buying a pair of shoes. And then I got an invoice from like some random company in my PayPal, and I was like, "Oh boy, I've been scammed." I
Oh,
should have
wow.
known. But I didn't. That's the thing. And if it could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. So I immediately went in and got a refund. Like I reported it. I got a refund from PayPal. I put my story online, and someone actually went ahead and got reported them to the domain registrar, who killed off the site. And I was able to kind of address my problem, but this is rampant online, and this is what we have to address, because what we're seeing here is a decline of trust online. Because I never went and bought a pair of Hokas after all this happened. I just went to the store and I bought a pair of shoes because it felt like too much trouble. And if we cannot have trust online, then what are we doing? Who does that benefit?
And that happened to you that you're tech savvy, and I've also fallen for certain scams online. And I'm like as tech savvy as as anybody else. And but the thing is, like sometimes they are so legit, or they are, you can receive them over SMS. Like right now, as we were talking, I just received an SMS from the local post service saying like, "Oh, I've got a package I didn't pay for because there was some kind of like extra fee in the and somewhere else that was unpaid." And I was like, yeah, but why is the link not HTTPS? And why then when I hover on it, then it actually redirects me to somewhere else? So I know I've got the let's say the theory, and I've got also the practice because I've fallen for certain of these things in the past, but like most people don't, and most people will fall for this again and again and again. I find interesting this idea of like we are losing trust in the web. But then again, I think that's something that Google got coming because essentially Google served you as this official page on like on the first result, or maybe the first page of results. And it was a totally scammy site, but like then again, it's a company that allows you to advertise for your for the name of somebody else, like somebody else's company. Like let's say I wanted to promote my conference, I would write like Web Summit, better than Web Summit, or you look for Web Summit and then my conference appears there. How is that even legal? So something that's something that just boggles my
I
mind
don't
all the
know.
time.
I remember I remember when I ran a Google Ads campaign for my company, and we had a Google ads rep, like someone who was teaching me how to use
Yeah.
Google Ads, and he was like, "You're gonna have to put your company name as one of the keywords that you run ads on." I was like,
Yeah.
"Why would I do that?" He's like, "Well, because other people will take it if you don't." I
Yeah.
I was like, "So I'm paying to have
On the
my
training.
company come up on my search?" Like, when specifically someone looks up my company, I still have to pay you? And that's one of many things that never made sense to me.
So you pay for your domain, by the way, which is a way to get your presence online, but then you have on top
Yeah.
of that to pay for the ads you like for
"Oh, it's just a
the
couple
ads, and if
cents,
you
it's not very expensive, blah, blah, blah." I mean, I shouldn't be paying anything.
and that doesn't guarantee anything because even if you pay for it, somebody outbids you, they will win the placement, right? I don't know if that's how it works exactly, but I think they can
Uh,
outbid you and
yes,
just
they
rank
can
better.
outbid you. I think the thing that is illegal is that you can't put the name of your competitor in the ad or something like that. There's, like, one rule that you can't breach
No,
if
that
you're
one
not
isn't
the
because I remember like we for a client or two were using Monday or ClickUp, one of these companies. I think it was Monday, and I was researching something. So I wanted to go on and download it, and the first thing I got, or I wanted to download. No, that now I remember. I wanted to download Basecamp because that was the tool that we were using. And all of a sudden, I get served all of these ads on Monday. And not only was Monday on top of the results, but they had articles promoted saying Monday is better than Basecamp. I'm like, I'm sure this shouldn't be illegal. So I spoke app on Twitter, I remember, and I got like an apology. I think they removed the content as well. And I'm like, well, they had to wait until somebody made made a thing out of it to remove it. But how would why would Google allow that? They don't give a flying fuck, I assume. Like they're too busy to with other things. But then again, they are allowing these things to happen. So I don't know if they're too busy or they're just like siphoning off money into the economy just because they're allowing this and it's just too profitable. And if nobody complains, I don't know.
I mean, that's what I would be doing if I was an evil Google VP. Why would
Exactly.
I do anything else?
Exactly. Then the next thing is like so these things are happening and I really like the idea of the social justice that you are implementing at Check My Ads because for me, it is a way to compensate the exaggerated power these companies have. That unless you do a really good campaign or on PR and then something goes viral, they don't fucking do anything about some of the injustices, right? Just I just heard today my sister went on the honeymoon flight, and I don't know, maybe I should have said somebody else. I'm gonna blip this out probably, but anyway, so somebody got into a plane and they bought the seats together with a kid in the middle and all of that because they wanted to be together, a family going on honeymoon and whatnot. And so it turns out the company they downsized the plane for whatever reason, and they just put people the three of them in separate seats, notwithstanding the fact that one of them is a toddler, right? And so and they did know it was a toddler because they previously they had relocated them somewhere else because they couldn't sit in an emergency seat because there is a toddler. So they knew that. And in spite of that, they just relocated him in line 27, maybe, right? So something like that.
Oh,
And they're like, well, you can file a complaint, but nobody's going to move a finger for that unless you do something that goes viral on TikTok or Instagram or social media, right? So most people don't have this power. So all the more important that people like you exist to do like that. So how can people reach out to you in case they find this kind of illicit practices or downright illegal things?
well, you can find us at checkmyads.org. We have just rebranded, so you can enjoy our beautiful new colors and website. And we are active on all the socials, and I'm the most active now on LinkedIn, believe it or not,
Yeah.
where I've had to I've had to sort of run off to after Twitter went down. So still on Twitter or X, but the audience that I'm most interested in lives on LinkedIn. So therefore, so do I.
But then how do you do it with the selection of projects? Because I assume that tons of people are contacting you. There's tons of interesting projects you can cherry pick from. So if there's like kind of like a waiting list, or how do you usually operate with the deal flow that you get?
We have a roadmap, we have a strategy and a playbook, and we have a vision of what we would like to achieve. And so we at this time of our organization, we are growing the way we are expanding the way that we look at the problem. So in the last year particularly, we saw that dis sort of that talking about disinformation, that focusing on disinformation as our window into the world of ad tech was not adequate, because there is so much that is happening in the world of digital advertising that we want to address that is not directly related to disinformation, but that feeds into that world. So issues like ad fraud or um so just even the word ad fraud is so big, but just we follow the work of a company called Analytics, and that company came out with all these really big stories last year about how YouTube was defrauding its customers out of billions of dollars through, informing them, reporting that they had paid for premium ads, but actually they were garbage ads and they were running on in the corners of people's browsers, or they weren't being seen, or they were being autoplayed. This is all a form of fraud for advertisers, because they paid a more money to ensure that their ads ended up on youtube.com and ran in front of people. But one of the sort of side issues that came up with this was that YouTube was running more ads on something called Search Partner Network, which is third-party websites off of YouTube properties, so off of youtube.com, off of the YouTube app, third-party websites that are supposed to be carefully vetted and brand safe. And what we found was that Search Partner Network included things like um, Rumble Video, which hosts all of the banned characters, uh, all the peanut gallery of hate merchants and disinfo people, and some Iranian sanctioned websites. I think I might be getting this confused with a different report, but like just a bunch of stuff that we should not be advertisers shouldn't be running their ads on. And so this ad fraud issue and this disinfo issue kind of merge here. But if we want to talk about this in an effective way, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture. And so one of the things that we did this year is we changed our tagline. So our tagline now, and the focus of our work, has shifted. It hasn't changed, it has shifted. We're simply moving back a step. So we're now talking about the internet that we deserve, free from scams, lies, and manipulation. Because as I said earlier with the Mark Cuban example, that that set of tools that the scammers were using to misinform people about Shark Tank keto gummies are the same tools that propagandists can use to throw an election. And so the problem really comes back down to the tools, to the products, to the digital advertising industry. And so we need to talk about it in a much bigger way. And if we want to be effective, we need to look at the full picture, address the full picture. And that means not just doing the work that that I began doing in 2016, which is calling out advertisers, calling out ad tech companies, but we're also looking at research, developing our own research to better understand and uncover issues and conflicts of interest in the industry. But we're also looking at policy. And so now we've grown to a point where we are pursuing policy, like actual laws that we can put in place to help ensure regulation in this industry. So to us, this is sort of a three pillar project now. and we are setting our sights on fixing the system rather than just fixing small issues that come up.
No, and that's super interesting because there's so many angles. Cybersecurity can go. We could talk about the B2C aspect of how people are being ripped off and scammed by these kind of companies. But B2B, when it comes to like the image of your company's advertising supposedly on YouTube or on Twitter for that matter, because I think that's something that we see every day. And then the ad appears after a white nationalist tweet, or on the account of, or being promoted next to people like Andrew Tate or something like that. So it's like you really don't want to be there. But as a company, ultimately you don't have the control over that. I think on Google you have got more control, but on Twitter not as much. And then again, most of the times they're intermediaries in this, like they're agencies who manage this for you. So therefore they delegate all of the risk. The brands delegate all of the risk. They're like, oh, I hired somebody. And so they can always put the blame on that. So do usually brands own up to their own mistakes, or do they just blame it on the agency doing that work for them?
Do brands own up to their own mistakes? I mean, it
I mean, a
really
lot of them
varies.
run it in house, right? But I guess somebody could say like, "Oh, that was the company I hired to run my ads," for instance, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it comes down to the third party. Obviously, nobody wants to take blame, but
Yeah.
we know that, a couple years ago, I was looking at ads on Steve Bannon's War Room, and I was coming up with Volvo and Audi and Etsy and Procter and Gamble brands, and those guys are not running their own ads. They've handed that stuff over to agencies to do it for them. And uh I I don't know about like taking the blame, but certainly they looked into it and they tried to, I think, do their best to remove the ads from that channel. Uh, the fact is that advertisers still don't know, as you just said, they don't have insight or visibility into where their ads are running, and often this is because, not often, this is always because ad tech vendors that they rely on to run their ads refuse to, or decline, or gaslight even them into not seeing true raw reports on their own ad placements. They actively work to keep them from seeing that information. And so the problem really here is this relationship. It's not necessarily the tech. It's not necessarily anything outside of just a pure power play. And so that power play is what we need to address. And we also need advertisers to step up and know that it is part of their responsibility as stewards of their brand to insist that they know where their ads are running, because they spend a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort making sure that they're building brands that people trust, that people are loyal to. And the way that you get that is by showing up in the right places and in the right way.
Yeah, and exactly. And one of the things that like pissed me off a few months ago, I remember I was on Twitter and I received this kind of scam of buy this crypto coin, like this meme coin or something, by a local kindergarten from here in Barcelona. I'm like, wait a minute. And it was advertised, right? So it was an ad. So technically, somebody either hacked the kindergarten Twitter account and posted this buy Solana or something like that advertisement, or that was just Twitter basically making app ads. I don't know, because actually I went to the into the I think I remember screenshotting this because I went into the account and they had legit posts and they had legit content. So I don't know if it was maybe it was something built into the system that they could just like impersonate somebody else to make up fake accounts or fake advertisements. I don't know what happened there, but the account didn't look compromised, and that looked like dodgy as fuck. How do you, in this case, like how do you actually go about it? How do you tell like the entire not only the entire platform is rigged, but like the company cannot see. I'm pretty sure they couldn't see these ads because the account was not compromised, how do you tell them, look, you're actually publishing this, or somebody is publishing it in your name? It's got to be Twitter because nobody else has got access to your account, right? So I don't know. Probably
Yeah.
Twitter operates differently, but I think that was a really extreme and obscene usage of these shady techniques. So that's something that, as a brand, you can never know who else is taking care. Sorry, is taking over your information and just using your image in some place that you actually don't control. They were active on
Yeah.
Twitter, but
That's pretty illegal. Yeah, you can't just impersonate other brands. Well, I mean, I'm certainly, I don't think there's any point reporting it to X because they don't really give a shit. But,
no.
but I'll tell you who we can target and who we are targeting. Who are the companies and organizations that have enabled X to appear to be brand safe?
Okay.
Those are the organizations that we need to be paying attention to because those are the suits that show up and come in and say, "Oh yeah, X has a 99.99% brand safety score from us. Double verify." Or tag the trustworthy accountability group, which is supposed to be an accountability body in our one of the primary accountability bodies in our industry, who had X had awarded X a brand safety certified seal, and they renewed it in the last year, in fact, without telling anybody. I mean, it was quietly done, and the only reason that I found out about it was because I was Googling something and it came up. So these are the kinds of things that enable X to go into boardrooms, into meetings with advertisers and convince them to join their platform because these more serious organizations have greenlighted that. So if those serious organizations were supposed to have done their job, uh, have are saying it's okay to do, then sure, we'll give it a shot. So yeah, I mean, we can't hold someone like Elon Musk accountable at this point. We can't hold, in my opinion, it's very difficult to hold Facebook and Zuckerberg and Google and all these companies accountable, but we can go after this sort of mafia, as I see it, of organizations that are supporting them and that are selling them into the industry as solutions to be trusted.
One could say that there are two strategies to doing this kind of activism, which is being uh, behind the scenes, completely unknown person, not public face, and all that, or being all out like you're doing, like having a strong social media presence and doing a lot of PR and all of that. Do you think it's paying dividends to actually be a publicly known face? I am assuming that this strengthens your relationship deeper with the ones that you get along well, but you create a lot of enemies, right? So is it how are you dealing with it, especially the public exposure? You receive threats all the time. Really famous people have targeted you on their channels and podcasts and publications and whatnot. So how are you dealing with all of these personally? It must be really rough.
For me personally, it rolls off my back. It I have received a lot of threats in the past, but uh, to me, it's just a sign that I'm being effective and efficient.
Hmm.
Obviously, it's not pleasant, but I don't really care. So, yeah, that's my answer. I don't really care, but it is really good to be public because it allows me to connect with people directly. And I am now somebody who has been in this industry. Well, I hesitate to say I'm part of this industry. I am an
Yeah.
accountability person in this industry, reluctantly so, for the last 8 years, and I like to think that that's a fact that helps people trust me and to trust my organization and trust the people that we work with because there's not a lot of people who have stuck it out to this point. I'm kind of looking around and I see that a lot of the landscape has changed. A lot of the players have moved on, but we're just kind of still here with the same drumbeat. Like we got to fix this problem that we started 8 years ago. So I would like to think that being public is ultimately a positive, so that people can put a face, or now I'm happy to say multiple faces to this effort.
That leads us to segue into this, because usually when you are the public face of a company, the company ends up suffering from associating, and some everybody else associates the company with a face, right? But usually there's a team behind it. I always say, like, I've got two co-founders, I've got 20 employees, they do amazing work. I don't do shit. I just do the podcast. It's just like I'm the spokesperson of the company, obviously the public face of the company, because nobody else wants to talk to people because they're developers, right? But jokes aside, that leaves a deep feeling of frustration of me, because it's like I'm taking all the credit. They are not. I do all the work. I do just a small part of it. And that only fuels my imposter syndrome all the time. Like,
Mhm.
far from reducing it, it's like, no, it's fueling it even more, because I actually get the credit that I don't deserve. Of course, somebody has to do this. There's a value in providing the face, and being actually like the communicator and the sort of spiritual leader of the cult. But at the same time, I don't know if you're also getting this. Is there How are you dealing with the this idea of like, oh, maybe I'm just taking credit I shouldn't? Jokes aside, I work hard, as you do probably. And so, but there's credit that you want to pass on to the team. How do you do it? How do you make sure that they get this retribution as well?
Oh, well, we just say it. I mean, our team actually was behind the
Mention
scenes,
on Twitter,
and
right? At the name, and that's it. Or how do you do it?
yeah, I mean, we were private until just this year when we launched our new website. We uh, I guess, like, had a grand surprise for everybody. Like, oh, there's 12 people working here.
Nice.
Um, and so yeah, we didn't really give credit in the way that we should have in the last year because of that fact. But we're obviously, Claire and I are we sort of see ourselves as very, I'm not going to say lucky, because we did put in a lot of work to get to this point, but we are very grateful for what we have achieved. And we're so lucky to have a great team that is extremely talented and competent and awesome. And we see our role as elevating our team members and helping them to achieve their best work. That is something that I think is quite uh uh, not something to be taken for granted in a lot of companies. So we really do focus on getting out of the way of our very talented team members and letting them do their work. And then of course we're happy to give them the credit that they deserve.
How can we make sure there's a checkmate in every country? Like, is there something that you have thought about? Like, you permanently battling the tech giants in the US because they're from there, right? And some of the biggest disinformation networks and sites and podcasts and whatnot, they are from the US. And so, but how, like, this happens everywhere in all different languages. And I remember back in the day with Sleeping Giants, you had like local representations, or like different representation for different languages as well. So is this something that you think you can replicate, or somebody else ought to do it independently in every country? Like, for instance, if they wanted to do it in countries that they desperately so needed it.
Well, absolutely. We have no secrets here. We have no company secrets as far as our
Yeah,
methods and our playbook and our strategies, and we're happy to share and collaborate. And we do. We work with a lot of organizations here in the US as well as internationally. Um, in you know, yeah, you name it, we're working with a lot of countries, either directly or indirectly. And what we kind of see ourselves as is a hub of knowledge that we are willing to and hoping to amplify through partnerships. So we do hope to expand our footprint through the work of other organizations and individuals in other countries, and we see ourselves as a resource to them. So the way to do that is just to, I guess, reach out to us if you have an organization that is uh, doing this type of work or would like to get involved, and see if there's some way for us to help out.
How about like running a nonprofit? You mentioned that you're a nonprofit, which basically makes one of the good things about running a nonprofit is makes you uncorruptible, right? So, and because companies, they can be bought, then they get a board of directors, they get investment and whatnot, and so maybe their direction and strategy can be influenced by these people, by external people, right? And interests, but whereas a nonprofit cannot. What are the other things that you didn't expect from a nonprofit that you found along the way and like, okay, yeah, this is actually good? Or was there some nasty surprise you didn't expect or something that, oh, I cannot do that. I want to do that, but I cannot because I'm a nonprofit.
A nonprofit is really just a business. It's just a business structure. It's absolutely capable of being influenced
Hmm.
and
Okay.
abused. So I wouldn't say that that is necessarily something that a nonprofit is immune from. However, I'm happy to say that uh, we we don't expect to get rich off of a nonprofit, and we
Nope.
don't expect to. I think we're Claire and I are the founders, and we are very committed to our mission. I mean, this is all we want to really do. We want to make a difference in the world, and we we both established that with each other, and we also are held to that standard by our board, who is also made up of people who are committed to to holding this industry accountable and bettering it. We've really worked hard to surround ourselves with really good people with a strong sense of a vision of what the future looks like. Our funders share our vision. We we have a universe of people who support us and who are looking for ways to help us bolster uh, our effect and impact in the world.
Okay. So last question is how we can help you now. Is there any way we can possibly help from this, from our community, Life on Mars?
Thank you for asking. So the easiest way to help us is to follow us on social media and or sign up for our emails on our website and to follow along with us, because what we do is every time you like one of our posts or comment on one of our posts, it shows up to a bigger audience. So if all you ever do is follow us and just hit the like button or uh, leave us a little message or a note, that is immensely helpful, because what Check My Ads does is not possible without the power of our community. So that is the number one way to help us. Then the number two way to help us is to give us money. We are a
All
nonprofit.
right.
That's
Straight to the point. Yeah.
You might be wondering how we get money if we're not a business and we don't have
Took
clients. Well,
45 minutes to get to this point, but yeah, let's talk about money.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we have something that we call Checkmates. It's our membership for people who would like to support us through small donations from anywhere from $5, $10, 20, 50, and so on a monthly basis. And that is one of our we consider those folks our inner circle, and that really makes a big difference for us. So those are two ways to get involved. But as I like to say, and the thing that I'm most proud of our organization is that you don't need to have money to help our work. Just have a social media account, talk about us to your friends and family, get the word out about the work that we do and the stories that we tell, because the more folks who know, the more we can mobilize them to help us make the change that we need.
Right. So you heard this, everybody. Just follow Nandini on social media and go to the website, newly fresh website, redesigned, and then and check who the people working at Check My Ads are. Follow them on social media, spread the word, and also report fucking Nazis on the social. So let's do it. Any parting words? 30 seconds to share what's coming up next for you at Check My Ads, or anything interesting you want to disclose, or we can wrap it up here.
Don't forget to follow me on LinkedIn, where I
Oh
have
yeah,
moved
sure.
all of the
LinkedIn too.
drama where I've moved all of the drama from Twitter over to this much more boring platform. But it's actually working, and I think people are enjoying seeing the bizarro stories that I once housed on over on Twitter. Yeah, we plan to do a lot more with LinkedIn, so come join us for that alone.
Can be hard because LinkedIn people don't disclose whether they are fascist or not. Usually, people don't speak about politics, but I don't know. I'm gonna keep an eye out. I'm gonna see how these things play out. Because LinkedIn is turning to have more personal content in the last years. I've seen a shift. Like people are not using Facebook anymore. Now it seems like they're being more open on LinkedIn because I don't know if that it creates a better like branding image or just LinkedIn used to be too cold and too distant, and now they want to be more like personal and intimate, and they're sharing things on LinkedIn. But I don't know. That's a strange combination. I don't know how this is going to play out, and but definitely your people is there, and so wishing you continued success, and thank you for sharing your time with us and your experiences. We learned a ton today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on today, Alex.
Thank you.